Now we're going to start looking at these blue buttons along here on the setup page. And this tutorial we're going to look at database and league. And the reason we put these two together is because they are linked, in that the primary purpose of the database is to support the program's spreadsheets, or league tables as we call them. Now if you have no intention of using ICPro's league tables, you can happily skip this tutorial and ignore these two buttons. But for those interested, let's start with the database, and we'll click on there. Now it's here that you need to enter the names of all the likely competition entrants in club membership number order perhaps. And you need to do this as you will be unable to save competition results to a league table if any one entrant's name on the image file names cannot be found in this database. Now before we put something in here, let's talk about all the buttons around here. First, the blue one at the bottom. Now this will work just like similar blue exit buttons that we've seen before on the presets page, for example. After exiting this way, any entries in the database will be saved and stay available even after shutdown. The only way to get rid of these is with this red clear data button. Now for the two up the top, the archive buttons. Now these work in exactly the same way as the set and retrieve archive buttons that we've seen in the Pixet status and options panel. The difference here is that the archive database buttons save database entries and not Pixet images and data. And this process not only saves the database names here, but at the same time it saves all the data held in the program's league tables. Now I've already used the Save Record button to archive or save a few names that I put in the database, and I've then cleared them using the Clear Data button. So now let's retrieve them. Now I'll click on the Retrieve Record button, and you can see this is similar to the ones we've seen before in the Set and Retrieve Pixet data. And there's the data I've saved, and it's number 1, and we can enter 1 in the little box at the bottom and say Retrieve Archive. And it's processing, it's complete, and we can now click the Continue button to get back to the database. And there's the 3 entries that I put in there earlier. Right, let's leave this page now. And we'll have a look what's under this League button. Now ICPro gives you 6 separate results database spreadsheets or league tables. Now I'm just going to click on one of them, click on League 1. And with each of these league tables you can set them up how you want them to look. And in here you can put a league name. I'm going to put Jubilee Cup. The next item is number of competition rounds. Now this is how many separate competitions will count towards the end of year total. We're going to put that on 4. The maximum entries per competition, well that's asking the maximum number of images that each entrant can submit for each of the competition rounds. And we'll just leave that on 2. Next one is how many image scores to count. Well, normally you'd expect all scores to count, but some clubs like to discard the lowest score in each round, and just a few clubs like to count just the top score in any round. You can make your decision here. I'm just going to select all. And the next item asks display results in order of. And there's 2 options here. The default is that the results will be displayed in the league tables in the order of the names in the database. But the alternative to this is that we can display them in the order of their table position depending on the scores for each author. Now you do not need to be too careful about these settings because you can alter them at any time without destroying any data already submitted to the table. Let's just have a look at the buttons. We've got a clear data button. We've got a step back button which will take us back so we can have a look at the other league tables, and we've got a view table button, so we'll just click on that. Okay, well it doesn't look much at the moment because it hasn't got any data in it. So now we're going to go back to the setup screen, run a few competitions and get some data entered into this table. So we will exit. I have already loaded two new sets of images into pick set 3 and 4. So pick set 3 first. Now if we're going to save the results to a league table, we need to ensure that two things are set up right. First, the author's names on these images must be in the database. So let's have a look at what we've got here. We click the load button again. It's been loaded, but I can key V to see the list of images. And you'll have seen this before. We got three authors: Terry Francis, John Smith and June Jackson. And you'll remember from just a couple of minutes ago, those are the three names which I had put in the database. So we're okay on that. Just a word of warning here. Some club members have a habit of slightly changing their names during the year. Take Terry Francis for example. If he puts in T Francis in any competition, ICPro will not find him in the database, and therefore when you get to the results table you'll not be able to save the data to a league table. So it's important for entrants to keep their names consistent throughout the year. Right, we'll key R to get back from that. The next thing we need to check is that the league save preset is switched on. So we pick set 3, go to the presets, and we need to make sure that this results league save is yes. That's fine. Incidentally, the results mode must be set to default individual in order for us to save to a league table. So we'll apply that, and now we'll run the competition for pick set 3. Key J for judging, and I'll quickly go through and score these. 18, 15, 14, 12, or 13, 14, another 14, 17, and there we are now at the results table. Now you'll remember that from here we can key X to save or print out those results, and we do exactly the same thing to put the data here into a league table. So I'll key X. And we've seen this screen before with the key S to save and the key P to print. But we've now got to save for league table, and it tells us to key I to input required extra data, and on return to this page key X will save the data to the league table. So I'm going to key I. And here we put in additional data for the league table. And we need a judge's name. I'll say Joe Smith. If I can spell it right. Better. We need a round date. And I like the format of day followed by month. So we'll say it's the 13th of June 06. And then we got to tell it which league table we want to put this data in. Well, we'll put it in league table 1. Then just click continue. And now when we key X to go back to the results table, this data will be saved into the league table. So key X. You see it's doing it down the bottom here, and we're back on the results table. So I'll key R to get out of that, Y for yes, into the league, and league 1. And we'll view the table. So what have we got here? Well, we've got the competition round along the top here, one column for each, and we've only scored one competition, the first round. It's got the date of that competition, which we typed in, and down here it's got the current round authors and all their image titles, and in here we got the score for each image with an accumulative score down the bottom. And what it will do, of course, as we score more rounds, is add up across the page, give a grand total, and then work out the position of that author. And at the moment we got June Jackson in the lead in first place and 2 equals second. And down the bottom here we've got the list of judges. Well, we've only got one round so far, and that was Joe Smith. Now you may want to put this order here in the order of their positions, so June Jackson is at the top. Currently, and by default, the names down here will show in the order that they are entered into the database. But we'll just step back, go to League 1, and we'll alter display the results here to author's table position. We'll click View Table again. And you can now see that June Jackson, she's up the top there, and then we got the 2 equal John Smith and Terry Francis. Okay, let's go back, judge another competition, and see what happens when we put that in round 2. We'll exit from there. And now we're going to judge pick set 4. Now remember what we need to do. First check the names, and V to view the list. Now we know we got 3 names in the database: Terry Francis, John Smith and June Jackson. But we have not got Ray Bridges in the list. Now this will happen sometimes, because not all club members will enter all competitions, and you may miss out their names on the database. But let's see what happens here. Now I'm going to reload pick set 4. So we'll hit the yes key and we'll key Y, and it's loading, and we get this alert, and Ray Bridges appears 3 times because he's got 3 images. But if we enter now and run this competition, we will not be able to save the data to a league table. So what we need to do is to get Ray Bridges into the database. So we can R to return, go to the database, and we'll type in Ray Bridges. There we go. We can exit that. We'll now load pick set 4 again. And no alerts this time. It's checked all these names against the database and they're all there. So we key R to return, and we'll run a competition for pick set 4. Judge. Once again, we'll quickly score these images. Give a bit higher scores this time. I'll give a 20. Okay, we've reached this table again. We know we can key X and we can key I to input extra data. Now we'll probably have a different judge this time, so we'll put in Jackie Johns, and we'll probably have a different date, so we say it's the 15th of October, and we still want to put this data into League Table 1. So we click Continue. And key in X, we'll save the data to the league. We get out of the table, R, Y for yes. Now back into the league. We'll have a look at League 1 and we'll view the table. And you can now see we've got another round of competition data inserted into the table. And June Jackson is still in front now with 80 points, but we have got a clear first, second and third. Before, you'll remember, John Smith and Terry Francis were both equal second. And under the main table we've got the round 1 image titles for each author. Ray Bridges, you'll remember, didn't enter anything in round 1. And the round 2 data and the list of judges, and we can save all this or print all this by keying S or keying P. Okay, so that's how our league tables works. We'll exit back to our setup screen.